what's your take on this wide receiving core?
Oh, I think it's terrible. I think it's awful. I think it's absolutely horrendous.
Wait a second. There's a penalty on the play, and I'm like, what?
Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk from two men in the know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
Joining us on the phone, we have NFL prospect and future XFL player Jeremiah Spicer.
Oh, no, man. I don't like to talk about myself like that, man.
Yeah. I told him if the Raiders took in Oliver, I was going to take him in the bathroom. He won twice.
Dude, the last time I checked, I am God, so slow your roll. Slow your roll down.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. We are ready to go, and guess what happened? Super Bowl just happened.
Oh, absolutely.
And the Chiefs come away with a big one after a 50-year drought. Come and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, definitely. And we are delighted to be joined by one of our favorite guests that we have on here from 104.5 the Team ESPN Radio. It's Tom Gozlowski. How you doing, brother?
What's up, guys? Great to be back with you.
Oh, absolutely. And you happen to be down in Miami for the Super Bowl for Radio Row the whole week before. What was the experience like down there?
It was awesome, man. It was my 4th year doing it, getting to talk to all the great guests, getting to talk to some of the players before the big game. That was this Sunday, and awesome experience, beautiful weather in Miami up until Friday night, so it was a great experience as always.
Now, I think it was last year when you went to the Super Bowl, you noticed that there was a lot more Patriots fans walking around than there were like LA Rams. Did you get a sense of there was more of a crowd towards a certain team this year when you were down there in Miami?
Definitely more Chiefs fans. As heard you guys just touch on a little bit. It had been 50 years since the Chiefs had been in the big game, and that fan base, they call them Chiefs Kingdom, we're thrilled to be back in the big game. So definitely, I'd probably say, boy, maybe as high as 75-25 Chiefs fans, at least from Friday. Now, I don't know if more Niner fans came in on Saturday and Sunday, but at least by Friday it was 75-25.
Well, you could definitely notice the difference in the stadium, when they had the whole tomahawk chop going and everything. Now, like you said, you had a bunch of guests on there, and I heard a few, too, when I was listening on 104.5 the Team ESPN Radio. Who was your favorite guest that you had on there?
My favorite guest? I guess I got to go with a non-football guy. My favorite guest was a guy by the name of Stu Gotts, who was on the Dan Levitard show with Stu Gotts. Yeah, so Stu Gotts, he spends his summers up in Lake George. He's a super radio guy, although some people may not know that from the Dan Levitard show. But it was awesome because Stu Gotts featured him on a competing podcast, dare I say. So he took some of our interviews from that. He had a lot of fun. We haven't had him on in about 3.5 years, but he was awesome. He talked about the city of Miami. He talked radio. We joked around about the soon-to-be my son on the way in June, that maybe if I get on an ESPN show, I'll name my kid after Stu Gotts. He had a lot of fun with that. His producer is a guy by the name of Dan Stanzik, who went to CBA Syracuse, and I went to Salve High School. So we don't live too far away from each other. One of his favorite restaurants is one of my favorite restaurants. So that was probably my favorite interview. Him and Dana White, the UFC president, something we've never talked to before, never had him on the show before. That's probably one of the most recognizable names that we'd never had him on. So probably Stu Gotts and Dana White were my 2 favorite interviews.
Excellent. Yeah, that's good to hear. Wow. I mean, it's something different, too. Stu Gotts, big Jets fan, right? But down there in Miami, so you get a little bit of both worlds connecting with the New York Jets and their fan base, and then also, the life of Miami. and Stu Gotts, he is pretty out there, too. He is pretty entertaining himself, too, along with the Dan Levitard show. But all right, now let's get back to the game here. Let's talk about all the moments that everybody has been talking about, the buzzing since the Super Bowl here. What the hell was Shakira doing with her tongue, right? No.
No. I loved it. It was great. I wish I was 13 years old again. I was a teenager when the Janet Jackson breast popped out. I loved it.
Oh, man.
I wish if you were a 13-year-old, you probably thought, you know what, it's time to put down the toys and start learning more about girls after the Shakira. Although then again, Isn't it creepy that both of those people, Shakira and J-Lo, are the same age as probably a 13-year-old's mom at this point?
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Isn't
right?
it? It is pretty crazy. But in all seriousness, now let's talk about the game. Now, the points that everybody's bringing up now is Kyle Shanahan and the moments that he had to turn this game into a different situation here, and about clock management and the plays that he had called in the first half and late in the fourth quarter. Now, do you side with Kyle Shanahan on the way he had managed the game, or do you think something else?
See, the Kyle Shanahan thing is so strange to me because I get it. Everyone, when they hear Kyle Shanahan, they think 28-3, 28-3, the Atlanta Falcons, although he wasn't the head coach of that team. He's the OC in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at this game and I think, okay, people could point to Shanahan and say he should have done things differently, but it's also the same San Francisco 49er team that had over 200-plus yards in the NFC title game, so they knew they could run the football. They have a running back that gets healthy in Tevin Coleman, who arguably is the best running back on the team when he's healthy. And you've got one of the highest-paid quarterbacks in the NFL, Jimmy Garoppolo. You have faith in that offense that they can do something against Kansas City. A few batted passes, the clock stops. And then even in another spot, San Francisco did get the ball back. They played it weird where it's like, okay, how much time, if at all, can we get Mahomes out there? I know it's easy to point at Shanahan, but boy, that defense had to make some plays too. Robert Saleh, who's had a great season as their coordinator, they got to make some stops, some tackles. Sherman's got to cover some guys. I know Shanahan's the easy one because he's been there before. But, man, I look at that 49er defense just as much and say, how do you leave Kelsey open in the end zone? How do you let these plays go against you when it matters the most?
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. Like on that Kelsey play, it just seemed like we'll let this one in. We're right here pinned against the goal. There you go. You'll have this one, and we'll just come back. It was kind of weird. It seemed like at certain plays, they seemed like they just let it happen. Just like that Damon Williams play at the end. It seemed like they already gave up. Like, oh, we'll just let him run in. And
there was
whatever.
Definitely a lot of miscommunication on the defensive side of the ball for the Niners. You notice that in spurts here and there, much like what Goz was talking about, how Kelsey was left wide open, and then even in the corner of the end zone, Patrick Mahomes had an easy pass. So I mean, you look back at that, and what you have to come away with it is that the Chiefs outsmarted the Niners D. It's really what they did. And that's how they were able to even come back.
Mm-hmm. Now, everybody also wants to look at that 3rd and 15 play now where the breakdown of coverage with that huge bomb to Tyreek Hill in the open zone. Now, again, there's been debate about that. It's Patrick Mahomes doing what Patrick Mahomes does, making a big play. Right. Others, it's a breakdown of coverage. And how do you feel about that play there, guys? I mean, was it a breakdown in coverage, or was it just Patrick Mahomes putting it where it needed to be?
Yeah, so there's 3 plays in that game. That one you're talking about, we're talking about Tyreek Hill, who's one of the better wide receivers, especially maybe arguably the fastest wide receiver in the NFL. Definitely a breakdown in coverage. That's one play. We just touched on Sherman getting beat by Sammy Watkins, and although Sherman got beat and he likes to talk, man, I went back and watched that play again. Man, Sammy Watkins deserves a ton of credit, man. He looked awesome. Like, he just beat him. Like, Sammy Watkins was awesome on that play, and he looked like the pick that we all thought he would have been years ago. There's another play in the game that I think is getting lost a little bit here, is the pass interference call in the second half, where the Chiefs, after the PI, get the ball at the 1-yard line and eventually score.
Right.
What we have to remember, this is like one of the most misunderstood penalties in football. I just want to break it down with you guys because I know a lot of people maybe don't understand this rule completely. So the play that happens is the Chiefs throw the ball to the end zone. The Niner guy is not facing the football, but he's covering the Chief guy. Now, the ball goes off the 49ers guy's back, and also the PI comes out. Everybody watching home is like, well, he didn't turn around and make a play on the ball, so it's pass interference. That's not necessarily true of what happened. I don't think the Fox team got this right. Chris Spielman, I always bring this up on there, he does a great job of explaining this as a former linebacker in the league. Remember, you actually, as a defensive back or a defensive player in the NFL, do not have to make a play on the ball. What it is that an offensive player, if they are trying to make a play on the ball and you are in their way or you're interfering with their attempt to get the football, that is pass interference. Think of it like this. It's a weird example, but it really explains the rule well. Okay, imagine a linebacker's in coverage, and a linebacker bites on a fake, and they turn around. So now their back is facing the quarterback who's throwing the football. Whatever reason, they think it's a run play. Oh, crap, I don't know where I'm going. And imagine the linebacker's back is now facing the quarterback. And the quarterback throws it and hits the linebacker in the back.
no one would be like, oh, that's pass interference on the linebacker. He didn't turn around. Well, no crap. He was confused and you threw it at him. Like, that's not pass interference. Like, as weird as that sounds, the player does not have to make a play on the ball. I know there was a video that went viral like months ago where you guys ever see the video where this little girl's playing basketball defense and she is like locked in on the other girl, like she's not even turning around. She doesn't even care about the game. She's just like playing unbelievable defense. That's kind of what it is. So yes, it's a pass interference. Niner fan could probably argue that rule, but that's like the lost play of this game where it almost wasn't a PI. But Twitter and Facebook would have exploded if they didn't call it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, everybody with what they have to view. Yeah,
I mean, what I took away from that one play is that you're absolutely 100% right that just because he's face guarding the offensive player doesn't make it pass interference. I think it was because he ended up when he jumped up, he ended up going. All his momentum carried him right into the player. And the player did reach back for the ball, but there was no shot he had because of all the momentum that the defensive player had just kind of ran into him in a sense.
Yes.
And that's where I think the flag came out, and that's why they called it the way they called it. And because, we're pinpointing certain plays throughout the Super Bowl. But, guys, I have a question for you, and that's about the officiating. I know that I think the officials did a fairly good job, and they definitely held back some flags that could have been thrown. But do you think that the officiating in the Super Bowl, did they hold back too much on some plays, or do you think that they did what they should have done all along?
That's about as good as you can get. I know the Damian Williams touchdown is a little close, and it's like within a foot of what could happen there. But the amazing thing about officials in football, and I think we can't lose this point either, and we always have to again, this is another thing, like us as all three of us are football fans. We are just as victims of this as anybody else that an official can call a great game, but one call can change the way we view a game. You know, like I can't tell you how Like I can't tell you how good officiated the Rams-Saints game was in last year's NFC title game. I can tell you the call at the end was awful, but it makes me totally forget how well the game went throughout.
Right.
I don't know if I'll use another crossword comparison here. Like there was a play years ago where it was Galarraga from the Tigers was cost a perfect game because there's a call at first base with Jim Joyce, and he called him safe, but he was out. I don't know how he called the rest of that game, but I know that call was wrong. So it's always hard to like go back and evaluate how an officials or how our crew did. I want to say they did a nice job, but if there was one awful call, I would probably change. Like, can you imagine that too? Like, imagine us in school. You got a 96 on a test. You got one wrong, but everyone screamed about how awful that one wrong answer was.
Right.
Like, you got an A, but no one believes you got an A.
Yeah, I guess that's a good comparison, I guess, in a sense. Let's switch gears a little bit now off the big game. It's been a while since we got to talk to you about, about a lot of different things, and a lot of stuff has happened. So I wanted to get your take on the New York Giants going out and getting Joe Judge, the special teams operator here for the New England Patriots. Now, what's your opinion of Joe Judge so far?
I was shocked with the hire. When we brought it up on Monday, it seemed like it was going to be Matt Rule. It seemed like it could have been another coach that was, talked about, Ron Rivera, although now reports are speculating he never was even interviewed because he was going so fast with Washington. I want to say Joe Judge is a great coach. I want to buy in all of a sudden. I know the staff looks pretty good. He's got Garrett. He's got Kitchens. He's got a few guys who at least have NFL experience as a head coach. I want to tell you it's a great hire, but here's the thing. If we compare the last four hires, we can go back even further. The last four hires for the Giants, counting Joe Judge, Tom Coughlin, Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur. Tom Coughlin was a former coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars, led that team to an AFC title game. So when Coughlin was hired, people were like, whoa, Tom Coughlin, this guy built up the Jags. It's a pretty good hire. When Ben McAdoo was hired, as crazy as the resumes now look and the legacy of Ben McAdoo in New York is, remember, people liked the Ben McAdoo hire. They didn't like the suit he wore at the press conference, but people thought, well, McAdoo's the reason the Giants are winning. Like, this guy is an X's and O's, never leave the film room. This guy's the man. People love McAdoo. And then when Pat Shurmur was hired, a lot of people liked Shurmur because he was the hot offensive coordinator who got Case Keenum within a game of the Super Bowl. But if we rank those four coaches, including Joe Judge, probably the least amount of hype and the least amount of excitement is around Judge in comparison because we don't really know. Like, he doesn't really sell as well as the other three did.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny is,
by the way,
go ahead.
I was just saying that might not even matter. By the way, so like that's the fun part about this too, right? Like McAdoo and Shermer had all this hype around him, but maybe that won't matter at the end. As long as Judge can win football games, that's what we're going to care about when we talk about his future in New York.
Yeah, definitely. Because I was even just going to bring up kind of what you're getting at is when, how analysts, you want to grade, the signing or whatever that.
Yeah.
The Giants had won, that whole thing and getting Ben McAdoo when they had signed him. They had won that whole offseason.
Right.
And look how that turned out. 2 years later, he's gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just funny how it happens.
That's the thing, too. With this hire, it's interesting. It's the Giants taking a different path and hoping for a different outcome positively for the Giants for the future. Joe Judge, and it was a shock to me as well. Like, I never expected him to hire Joe Judge. I thought the rumors that were swirling around were kind of like, yeah, they're going to bring him in, talk to him a little bit about the Patriots, how they run things, that type of thing, and just kind of go through the process with him. But then when they announced that they hired him, I'm like, wow, he must have not only made an impression, but also it's all about his network, his connections throughout the league. And you saw that how he put that coaching staff together. It has experience. They've been there, done that type of thing before, and I think it's going to support him support him very well. Now it's about him as a head coach. He doesn't have to coach the offense. He doesn't have to coach the defense. He has to make the right decisions at the right times. And Giants fans are going to have to see that the next season.
Yeah, I mean, and like I coined the term here. Don't steal this either, guys. It's trademarked, not yet. Well, verbally, but I like experience over experiments, and that's what I was looking for: experience over experiments. But with this experiment, by getting Joe Judge and then grabbing, Jason Garrett, who was an offensive coordinator before, better offensive coordinator, we'll say, than a head coach, and then Freddie Kitchens, which we've seen when he was, tight ends coach, and then working with Baker Mayfield. I feel a little better now with their experience that they've had, not as head coaches,
right,
but as coordinators. All right, now keep it on the Giants here now, and free agents coming up here, free agency. Who do you think the Giants should possibly target in free agency?
So this is a little bit more difficult because I still look at the wide receivers. I know they brought in Golden Tate last season, and Golden Tate served a suspension. But it's always good aiming for Daniel Jones to see if he get help. The offensive line for so many seasons seem to be got to get the offensive line better, and they've tried. Whether it be the draft or free agency, they've tried to get the line better. And I thought the line in comparison to the last 3 years was probably better. The defensive line could have an upgrade. But depending on the money, and they may not be able to afford one of these two guys, but I'd at least pick up the phone and see if they'll answer. I like some of the pass rushers. I like Vic Beasley, Jadeveon Clowney. I know those are some of the biggest defensive names out there, but can you at least pick up the phone and see? If they say no, they say no. But they got to go somewhere. They got to end up at a different spot than maybe where they are now. You could pick up a veteran wide receiver, sure, but can you go to the draft and get one? Yeah, you can go to the offensive line and get back to the draft. Is there a great offensive line name that you can't miss? No one's really jumping out to me yet. I think defense, you pick up the phone and call Clowney and Beasley, and if they both say no and take money somewhere else, I don't know if there's a big-time free agent where it's like, oh, my God, you got to get – I don't know. The best answer might be March, because what we've seen in the past, remember, is that a lot of teams wait until the first day of this new year, which I believe is March 17th, and they'll start making moves, adjusting their salary and things like that. Clowney and Beasley are the two, and maybe I like those two because they can go on any NFL team and hopefully make them better. Clowney a little bit more of a question mark because he plays so well in his contract years and years where it didn't matter as much. It kind of takes a few plays off. But, man, he was good for Seattle. He was good for Houston.
Right. So just sign him to a one-year deal, and he'll be good for you.
That's right.
Just a bunch of ones. Hey, isn't that yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to bring this up, and Goz is, he's thinking about what the Giants could possibly be making a move for in free agency. There could be a trade, too. There could be a guy by the name of maybe Trent Williams who might be available from the Redskins. Maybe the Giants could bring him in to fulfill that left tackle spot that has been weak for so long. It's just a possibility, but, something to think about.
Here's what I would love if you're a Giant fan. I would love Trent Williams to get traded to, I'll just toss a random team, like the Jags, and then the Giants traded to get him. The tough part is Bills trending support. Do I think the Trent Williams trade makes sense? Yes. Do I think it makes sense for both teams? Yes. Do I think an in-division trade is likely? That's where it gets tough. It's happened, but
it's not.
Look, Trent Williams, football-wise, it totally makes sense. Draft pick-wise, totally makes sense for both teams. Like, it's very much like inter-city and inter-division trades are less likely to happen, but football-wise, it does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true, and it just
we saw the Jets and Giants trade, for the first time in forever this past season. So
it's
we'll
possible.
See. We're talking to guys from 104.5, the Team ESPN Radio. They're your home from New York sports. So let's switch gears now to the Jets. A lot of it's coming out about Jamal Adams and contracts. And now taking a look at the Jets in the offseason now, how different do you think this team is going to look coming next season here with possibly Le'Veon Bell getting moved for some picks or another player?
I'm excited about the Jets because at least we get year one of Joe Douglas. So we have an idea of this is not the past. Remember, Mike McCagnon was fired after the draft, not before the draft, after the draft. So, here's all your players. By the way, somebody else is going to take it. Oh, okay. So a lot of these younger, like mid-roster, I'll call them fringe guys, may not be there because Joe Douglas doesn't want him anymore. Robbie Anderson's future is questioned. I don't know if Robbie Anderson's going to be a true number one for another team. Do the Jets go out and get aggressive for a wide receiver? A lot of the last two seasons, the Jets have had money to spend. And the biggest guy they brought in was C.J. Mosley. They almost brought in a player who signed for the Vikings. They just missed on. But they got
Anthony Barr.
Mosley. Yes. And Mosley, you know what? If he's healthy in game one, they probably beat Buffalo. If a few other things go in the right direction, the Jets probably have another win here or there. You brought up the trade for Le'Veon Bell. Here's the thing with Le'Veon Bell. It's amazing because it was like, hey, the Jets got to get Le'Veon Bell. They got to get Le'Veon Bell. I remember so many people were talking about trading for him and getting him. They finally get him, and then almost within, a month? Hey, what do you think about trading Le'Veon Bell? We just signed him. Why are we trading him? We just signed him, guys.
Yep.
So I don't know if look, could it happen? Sure. I mean, New York sports fans don't bet on anybody. They said, we're not trading Odell. Then they trade Odell for the Giants. Mm-hmm. The Jets have a very interesting offseason on the way because
definitely
if they add the right pieces – and they do it the right way, Adam Gase can't make any more excuses. The team can't make any more excuses. They're like, okay, now we have the players. Now we have the quarterback. Now the division might be a little bit easier, depending on how Buffalo and New England play next year. But we got to figure this out because we got everything we want right now.
Yeah, definitely. And, going back to that Anthony Barr situation, they had him verbally agree on a contract. It was almost said and done. He was just about on his way on an airplane to go and sign the deal. And then all of a sudden, no, I think I'm going to stay in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. I've never seen that before, where like everything was pretty much set in stone, done, and all they got to do is fly to sign the deal. And what a linebacking core that would have been. Would have been scary. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Now, talking about the Bills and possibly the Patriots now. Say, if Tom Brady does not return, or even if he does now to the Patriots, do you think the Bills have their best shot at taking the division, or is it possibly the Jets or Miami?
Yes, I like Buffalo. I do. Now, again, like you said, what is the future of Tom Brady? Now, he has the Hulu commercial and says he's not going anywhere, which right. I feel like it's the end of the – I don't know if you guys remember the XFL 30 for 30. Where at the end of the XFL 30 for 30, at the end of the movie, they asked Dick Ebersol and Vince McMahon, hey, do you think you guys would ever do this again? And they're like, yeah, we're going to do this again. And everyone's like, oh, that was weird. I think they said they'd do it again. And then all of a sudden the Alliance League came. They're like, whoa, we never saw this coming. Wait, he told you. Oh, my God, the XFL's back. No, he told you. Guys, hello. You said it at the end of the movie. So Tom Brady says in the Hulu commercial, I'm not going anywhere. And everyone's like, hey, what do you guys think about Brady? You just said it, guys. And I don't know if it's like the agent being like, look, we're not going to say we're coming back because they wouldn't be smart business, but that's probably what's happening at this point. Yeah. They don't want to say we're definitely coming back to lose $4, $5, $8 million, whatever the number is. But back to the question of the Bills. The Bills have close to $80 million in salary cap space that they can use, and they have close to double-digit picks. So they have a ton of draft picks and a ton of money. Right. They can do whatever they want. I know a lot of Bills fans want the wide receiver, the big name. But, man, it's been about 5 years where Buffalo, since Sammy Watkins left, basically, of who's the number one, who's the number one, I don't think they even care anymore. They're like, John Brown had a pretty good season, and we don't need a number one. You look at the Niners and you look at the Chiefs, like, besides Tyreek Hill, like, those guys became number one wide receivers. So I love the Bills. They got everything they want to do right now in the Western New York.
Yeah, as far as the Bills go, they don't have to pick high for a wide receiver. Wide receiver draft class this year is absolutely insanely deep. So nobody that needs a wide receiver needs to pick early. And for the Bills, quite honestly, I mean, they do still need a number one, but that offensive line needs upgrade. They need to upgrade that offensive line. Then that offense could be dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And
totally.
Yeah. So now that the Chargers have moved on from Phillip Rivers here, and he moves now to Florida.
Possibly.
I know. Possibly. Do you think there's a window here to where you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan? Do you see a scenario where they go after Phillip Rivers and say goodbye to Jameis Winston?
It's funny you asked me that question because someone, I want to say it was Levack, somebody else asked me this question like within the last 2 weeks. Very similar question. I'll give you guys the same answer I'll give them. Phillip Rivers, in my mind, is a Hall of Famer. He should go to the Hall of Fame one day. His stats are incredible. He's 16 years in the league.
Yep.
But isn't Rivers like an older version of Winston? Yeah, Phillip Rivers had some great seasons, led teams deep in the playoffs. But in comparison, I guess, and the people have been doing this for a decade and a half, if we compare him to Eli and Roethlisberger, man, Rivers likes to throw picks. And Rivers likes to turn over the football. So I'm basically going to get a decade older Jameis Winston. Not as bad as Jameis turning over the football, but I would at least like somebody else. Now, if you told me the Buccaneers were close to getting to the Super Bowl and I thought Rivers was a missing piece a la Brett Favre for Minnesota, I could hear that out, but they're just not there at that point. Believe it or not, I would probably go Winston over Rivers because of age. We're talking about a guy that, again, 10-year difference who turns over the football just as much. I don't feel great about Rivers where Tampa would be right now.
And so you would rather go with Winston and say they do try and bring another quarterback in. Do you think they go for whoever performs the best is going to get the starting job? Or as another scenario, say they do go and get Rivers and the plus side for him is his age in a sense that they can draft a quarterback, groom the guy, and then have him ready to take over.
Yeah, so this is where it gets complicated in Tampa because can we get Joe Burrow not to be as good and fall to Tampa? Can he, throw some pick? Can he, get a fake injury?
Right.
Because, look, I would love Joe Burrow. I think everybody would. Tua got hurt, and also Tua, people forget, Tua's only, 6'1". And if you go back through the career of Tua Tagovailoa, besides a second half against Georgia, go find the best game he played in college. He lit up UL Monroe. He put up really good stats. I voted for him to win the Heisman in 2018. But when you look through the best games, he didn't play well. He got hurt against that SEC title game. He didn't play in the bowl games and everything else when it mattered. So Justin Herbert, in similar fashion, Justin Herbert played his best game in college, his final game in college. So a lot of these guys, when they had their best competition, weren't great. And that's how I was looking at some of these college guys. When you play against the best, how do you play? And by the way, Justin Herbert's final game in college is not for Oregon. It's in the Senior Bowl he played the best. Not even for the Ducks. He played best in his bowl game when he was a senior. So as for the Bucs, man, can I wait a year? Can I get Winston on a 1-year deal? Can I get Gardner Minshew? Can I get Teddy Bridgewater? Can I get anybody who won't turn over the football? I love Jameis. I'm sure I've talked to you guys before about I like Jameis. But man, 30 turnovers. As people were telling me, the Defensive Player of the Year award winner. Jameis Winston because of how many turnovers he gave the other team.
Yeah, right.
I just can't do anything. Look, Marcus Mariota came in with him in the league the same way.
Right.
But Marcus Mariota got benched because he couldn't do anything on offense. Winston's got, passing touchdowns and passing yards. But he can't give the team the football that often.
Right. And I'm convinced that Jameis Winston is going to have an ESPN special 30 for 30.
It could be.
I'm absolutely convinced.
What's it called? Crab legs in football?
That's right.
Maybe. Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
What if I told you I never knew my team's uniform colors? I just guessed every Sunday. Jameis Winston, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's right.
It's terrible. It's because that's what he maybe looks at is I've made this many mistakes. I have to do this many points to make up for them. You know what I mean?
It's
just
the
crazy.
most. Jameis Winston is an enigma on himself. It baffles me from play to play, from week to week. When you watch him this year, you see some great plays, and then you see some horrendous plays. And it's like, why can't he just make most of the really good plays and not so much of the terrible ones, because then there wouldn't be an argument or a discussion on should he stay, should he go. So I don't know. He's young. He's still young. He can make the plays, but then sometimes he takes them away 3 or 4 times a week, and it's like, you want to just shake him. You're just like, Jameis, stop it.
It's amazing. Think about this for a second, right? Like, if we had to evaluate quarterbacks forever, whatever team, Giants, Raiders, like you go through the whole NFL. If we had to make a list of what would you want your quarterback to do the least, or your attribute of your quarterback, the least thing you'd want them to have? Now you'd say like, okay, get injured. Well, okay, that's football, so that's going to happen.
Right.
Not be able to run not be able to move the offense. Okay, but like if you have a good running back, you might be able to get away with that. How about turn over the football constantly? Yeah, you know what? That's probably number one.
Right.
You think about it, like that's probably the number one thing is that please don't let my quarterback turn over the football, and he does it better than anybody. Or worse than anybody, however you want to phrase that.
Well, Daniel Jones is trying to make a good effort to try and get there, right?
Right. That's the thing. Like Daniel Jones and Josh Allen, and that's I'm building a perfect segue, right? Like Daniel Jones and Josh Allen. Josh Allen, because Buffalo won, Bills fans kind of gave him a break. Like, well, we're winning, but Josh Allen's a madman out there. They played bad teams. Buffalo fans admit this. They played awful teams to start the season, but they won. So who cares? Like they're in the playoffs. Who cares?
Right.
Daniel Jones, same thing. Well, he's a rookie. And, he's better than we thought. He's standing up straight. He's not tripping when he goes on the field because the expectations are that low. But he turns over the football too much, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to have to develop fast.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking to Goz from 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. Now that the NFL is over here, we have the XFL that's going to be jumping up in there, isn't it? Yeah, it is so sad. It went by fast, but all good things.
It always goes by fast.
But we have the XFL coming up. A lot of people are excited about that. We have a lot of group members on our Facebook page that follow the XFL. Jeremiah Spicer is a good friend of the show. He plays for the Los Angeles Wildcats. We are going to try and take that trip down. Are you guys going to do a bus trip down to New York to do the Guardians game? And if so, can you make it the Los Angeles Wildcats game?
It is the Los Angeles Wildcats.
Yes!
There you go.
February 29th.
Oh, ask and you shall receive.
There you go. We're going. Maybe we can get down there and get Jeremiah, get some words with him down there after the game or something. That'd be great. So I know by just listening to your show at 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. on 104.5 The Team and the 104.5 The Team app. Yeah. You really don't feel like really comfortable about the XFL. You feel that it might end quicker than it should. So what's your take on the XFL? Why are you unsettled with the XFL?
Look, it has nothing to do with the XFL. Like, it has nothing to do with Vince McMahon, or it has nothing to do with, like, it's going to be a minor league football team. It is a strictly business take. That's it. Like, it is like, oh, it's not a pride thing for me. This simple as this. So I got about 5 more days before I can be proven wrong. The league's not going to kick off. Look, I didn't get a business degree from Hobart. I had 1 job in sales. I had 2 jobs in sales my entire life. But whether you have a college degree, a high school degree, like business isn't this hard. Let me break it down. It's very, very simple, okay? You own a business. Your goal is to turn a profit. The reason your doors are open in a business is so you make money. Your job is to not open up a business and say, oh, man, you know what I can't wait to do? Lose money. That way, like, no one does that. Now, don't say that to Netflix, who's billions of dollars in debt, or radio stations of the past. That's a whole different discussion for a whole nother podcast I could bore you guys with. But business isn't this hard. Like, you just have to make money. So go back, and I had the same take about the Alliance American Football League. What the Alliance American Football League did is that they overspent. They thought, we'll just spend as much as we want. Charlie Ebersol said, all right, we'll just keep spending, and eventually we're going to make our money back. And then all of a sudden, Charlie Ebersol sat back in week 1. They almost couldn't pay their players because they weren't getting money back. Like, it's as simple as that. So how in the world is the X? And I told Oliver Luck this to his face, and he like laughed at me a little bit, but he actually admitted it. He's like, look, we may not turn a profit in year 1. Okay. Like, if Vince McMahon, and this is the part that is so hard for me to predict, if Vince McMahon is so stubborn that he says, I don't care how many years in a row we're going to lose money, I'll just keep funneling money into this thing until we make a profit. Okay. Like, that's the stubbornness of Vince McMahon.
Right.
And hell, he might do it for 3 years. He might just continue to feed ESPN and ABC money. I just don't know how the league is going to make money. I don't know how many people are going to be at the games. I don't know how many people are going to buy tickets. They've bought their airtime, which hopefully this doesn't get too boring, but I have to give these details of the XFL. So
Absolutely.
what the XFL did, what the XFL did is the XFL bought the airtime. So what that means is the XFL went to ABC, ESPN, and Fox and said, we are going to give you guys $50 million. We'll say 25 for the sake of the conversation. And I know the number is 50 though, but we're giving you ABC and ESPN $25 million, and we're going to give Fox $25 million. And we want our games on television. So if you're a media company in 2020 and a business comes to you and says, we're going to give you $25 million to air sports on a sports station, you know what you're going to do? Air the sports on a sports station.
Yeah, definitely.
So they're going to air the games because they're spending $50 million. Now, here's the biggest plus for the XFL. It really, truly is. And this is something I'm very curious about what happens in the next month. Okay, let's imagine Jimmy and Joe work for either Fox or ESPN, okay? And your bosses, and one of your big, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So now one of your bosses, one of your biggest sales partners is the XFL. You know that the success of your station where you work may be dependent on your sponsors. So you just found out one of your sponsors is now spending $25 million to be on your air. I guarantee you know what your bosses tell you? Hey, can you hype up this business that's giving us $25 million and not crap on it? Because we'd like the money again next year.
Right.
So that's what's going to happen. That's a huge part of this, is that ESPN and Fox are never going to, crap on the XFL because that's bad business. But what's going to happen, I don't know who, CBS, the Action Network, somebody's going to start taking pictures of the crowd, just like they did for the Alliance, be like, nobody's here. Or local writers will be like, nobody's here. And eventually it's going to hit a point where it's like, okay, ESPN and Fox may be lying to us because there's a business agreement with the company, but no one's going to the games. Now, there could be a point where people are just love ESPN and people are like, oh, my God, ESPN said this is a good product, so I got to go entertain it and watch it. Hell, that could happen. If you hype this up the right way, it could work. But I just go back to the simple equation. How the hell are they going to make money? They're in big cities. They're in Los Angeles. They're in MetLife. They're in places that have had NFL teams before. I know St. Louis and Seattle are allegedly doing well with season tickets, but look, locally, the Arena Football League, they didn't turn a profit. People were packing the Albany Empire. But you go back and look at the numbers, and the owners of the Empire this is on record, they're like, we didn't make money. And you look around and go to the Empire games there's 11,000 people in here. How are these guys not making money? And they have a far less roster, and the players get far less paid. I just don't know how they're going to make money. That's the end-all, be-all. How can they turn a profit?
Yeah, it's understandable, definitely. And Vince McMahon, he's invested a lot in this. And like you said, for if somebody just offered you to play their stuff, they're going to do it.
Right.
Now, how far along is that going to go after, say, I gave you this, and then all of a sudden say, now you got to, because everybody buys time to get to the NFL. How is it going to turn back around? I mean, if I say I'm going to give you, $20 even right now to do this for me, and then it's successful, and then I say, all right, now you should probably give me money now for how successful I am. They're going to be like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yes, that's exactly, and dude, that's a perfect point. That's exactly right. So, for some people who might have got confused by that, the NBA and the NFL doesn't do what the XFL does. Like you just said, there's a partnership because they, ESPN, Fox, CBS, can say, hey, if we have this product on our station, sponsors will then pay us and we'll make the money back. That's just how the business of sports media works. And that's all that stuff. Now, Vince McMahon, hell, he might say, we lost $45 million. Most smart business people, and one of the reasons why the Alliance American Football League folded was the guy from the Carolina Hurricanes said, hell no, I'm not spending any more money. I'm just going to lose it. McMahon could lose $40 million, have horrible business, and be like, all right, let's get ready for year two. So, and that's the craziest part about this. I might not even be wrong. I could be completely right about everything I said. The XFL lost money, horrible business decision, horrible idea, and McMahon might be like, screw it, I'll prove you all wrong. Well, you lost $40 million. We didn't lose 80.
That's right.
So, I mean, that's bad business, but we'll find out. I just don't know. Maybe I'll be wrong in 3 months. An unbelievable amount of money.
So I wanted to touch up on this because I was thinking about it, and you're right. Like there's a lot of people that are skeptical about the XFL. Is it going to last? Is it going to fold? A lot of people are expecting it to fold, but because of the time frame that it's in, for the cold weather teams, it gets pretty cold sometimes through the month of February into March and so forth. So. Do you think that might be a factor with people even showing up, even though the tickets are kind of cheap?
Totally. Yes, 100%. It is going to be hard. Look at the sports that are played in the winter. Basketball and hockey. Mm-hmm. They're indoors. Mm-hmm. I don't know how the hell – look at us. We're all married. We have kids. We have all this stuff. We're in relationships. Think about telling your significant other, hey, we got to go sit in the cold in February and watch minor league football.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I just don't get how you're going to sell it to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, like, you can look across sports in general. You guys got me going on the XFL. I could talk about this for days.
Yeah.
So look around professional sports. Go look at an NBA game. It's hard for them to sell tickets. Go look at a baseball game. It's hard for them to sell tickets.
Mm-hmm.
I covered the minor leagues. I worked in the minor leagues. I couldn't tell you how often the stadiums were empty. You got fireworks and free peanut night and $2 beer night. That's a whole different story. Like, now you get people in the building. But, it is going to be extremely difficult to get people. I don't know how. I would love to find out the numbers of season ticket holders or just ticket holders, how the hell they're going to – and, by the way, they're playing in 50,000-seat arenas. It's going to look horrendous.
That's what I thought was
on television.
All lower level.
Like, how are you going to get everybody in MetLife even? And
check
that's a smaller stadium.
It's not going to be lower level. It's going to be half level.
Yeah,
right. You got to go WWE style and put all the fans on the camera side so no one sees the other side of it.
Right. Or even, what I was thinking they should do is at halftime, like, have a main event. Have a wrestling match there. The people who want to at least go see the, SummerSlam, it's not going to be SummerSlam, but boom, we're going to see John Cena come through and this, and this guy fight. And
we're going to bring back the Four Horsemen. We're going to go Tom Goz.
Yeah.
We're going to go Tom Goz, Jeff Levack, Jimmy, and Joe. Let's go.
Like, you guys could probably, if you guys remember this, because I think you guys might have just perspective on this as me, like when the original XFL launched in 2001. Mm-hmm. So I'm a kid. I'm like 12. Mm-hmm. And I thought, like what you guys just said, I thought like Goldberg and Stone Cold were going to be out there like playing football. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so cool.
Yeah.
And then like everybody watched, and I was like, wait, where are the wrestlers? Oh, it's just football? Like, I love football, but like this isn't the Buccaneers, this isn't the Giants, this isn't. Why do I care about this now? Like everyone watched the first incarnation of the XFL, but I thought it was going to be WWE. Hell, you guys might be onto something. Send them out there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, why not look at that aspect? All right, I have one more thing for you here. When during the Super Bowl, when the Kansas City Chiefs won, the confetti dropped, and they brought up the fact that there was written tweets on the confetti of what these players or even Demi Lovato tweeted out and had aspired to do for the future now that they had accomplished. Have you ever tweeted about something that you would like to accomplish and have it come true? And if not, what would you tweet right now that you would love to accomplish in the future?
Oh, man, that's good.
I had to drop something serious on you, yeah. And you got to tweet it right after this, so after we do this. No.
I gotta think. I don't know if I've ever tweeted something like made a goal come true or anything like that. I think in my business, like it's actually probably a bad thing to do because like, hey, I want to host my own radio show while you're producing a show. It's like, oh, you want to take my show? So you got to be a little careful.
Right. Like, hey, I know. It's not like you were like, I always dreamed to work with Jeff Levack.
My goals have already come true.
Yes. It doesn't get better than this.
What would my goal be I would tweet now? I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but maybe I just will. My goal would be to re-up my contract here in the next few months.
There you go. Boom. Exclusive right here. We just got it. Yeah. Awesome.
There's my thing I'll say.
Excellent. Thank you.
No, let me rephrase that. Have a long-term relationship with the 445 team.
There you go.
There you go.
And that's right. You can listen to Tom Gozlowski on 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio, 2 to 7, your afternoon drive, and on the 104.5 The Team app. Goz, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a good time. We love everything that you do and all the support you give us. And once again, congratulations on the upcoming baby. You're going to be having a baby boy. I know that you and Levack are going to be great parents, so congratulations.
Thank you. You know what? I'm changing my tweet right now. I thought about being a good father should be a goal, but you know what? My new goal, I'm going to wish this into fruition, that one day
I'll again be invited on the Football on the No podcast.
Excellent. There you go. Sweet. And then we'll tweet out that hopefully we can do the same and be on 104.5 the Team ESPN Radio.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, bro.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the No with Jim and Joe.